Welcome to the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast. You are now part of a small underground movement of dent technicians from all over the world. We are on a mission to change our industry with innovation, intelligence, and skill. But because we don't rely on an insurance company to steer customers our way, we need to do things different. We need to do things smarter. We do that through a network of technicians that we call the Tactical Tech Movement. Now let's get this revolution started.
Hey, what's up, everybody? John Hiley and Miss Hungry for the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast. So how you doing, Hungry? Nice to meet you.
I'm very, very hungry right now.
I had to bust out one of them bad dad jokes, you know.
Oh my God.
The bad dad jokes when your kid says, hey, I'm hungry, and you look at him and you say, well, hi, Hungry. Nice to meet you.
You do that quite a bit to me, don't you?
Yeah, I'm always doing horrible bad dad jokes.
Yes, you are. So we are a day late with Marketing Monday.
A day late, but we're not $1 short because we're bringing you a Marketing Monday podcast today that is I don't even think we really have talked in depth about this.
But isn't this going to be Marketing Monday / Tactical Tuesday?
Nah, I might bust out a Tactical Tuesday.
Today is Tuesday.
On Wednesday. You know, so no, I think this is more the less, like I told you guys at the beginning, I was going to try to do shows when I felt inspired. And we were out and about yesterday. We actually had a really good day. Mm-hmm. And me and the wifey took the day off, and we went out to lunch, went out to the mall, kind of just chilled out and had a good time. So because of that, we didn't have any time for you motherfuckers.
Yeah.
We were like...
We've been busy as hell. Even on the
right.
weekends, it's like, let's just take a little bit of time for ourselves.
We was like, I ain't fucking with you.
Mm-mm.
I'm just playing with you guys.
You
but look,
stupid ass bitch, I ain't fucking with you.
I got a million trillion things that I'd rather fucking do.
Than to be fucking with you.
Because I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. You know what that reminds me of is that
it's
movie.
Like the best word to say.
You know what, though? That reminds me of that movie Fist Fight with Ice Cube and whoever that other actor was.
I don't even think I've seen that movie before.
Yeah, we have, where they get in a fist fight at the end of school and the daughter gets up in front of the stage and she sings that song.
That's right. What was the name of that movie?
It was Fist Fight.
Oh,
I'm
that's
pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I fell asleep during half of it.
That movie's hilarious. But a girl gets up on stage and sings that to her haters.
Yeah.
And basically the whole thing is this massive fight at the very end between Ice Cube and I don't know who the white dude actor is, but man, they beat the dog shit out of each other.
Oh.
It's a good movie, real good movie.
Well,
Gotta love
everybody needs a good pounding every once in a while.
I guess she does, doesn't she? Hey, you know what though? Just like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. You know?
Yeah,
and in all honesty, that's kind of what we're talking about today, right? And what we're going to be talking about today is exactly why we decided to use the word tactical in our branding, tactical in our podcast. I've got other podcasts that we use the word tactical. And ultimately, like I've always been an individual of action. I never really have disclosed my plans because a lot of times I do have an idea of where I'm going to be in the end. But when it comes to actually getting there, I know the plan, but I never want to be basically closed in by a plan because I understand that there's times when you got to move and you got to pivot and plans immediately can change at any moment. And it's one thing that you got to be careful with is that when you go to carry out something is you don't get too caught on the plan. And where that comes in, the strategic where that comes in is the tactical business. All right. So it's actually a term. People talk about that in business being tactical. And even big corporations employ companies or have strategic individuals in their companies that are to carry out operations with a tactical business aspect. Mm. And I'm going to give you guys a brief something that I had recently read that talks about a tactical business planning. And if you guys can understand the actual icon beside in this blog that I'm going to read to you, is a chess game. It's a guy moving a chess piece. And that is a way that you need to envision what I consider the tactical tech, the tactical marketer, the tactical businessman, is that you are not playing a game of checkers, you are playing a game of chess. So you're always looking down the road, but when the market responds, you have the flexibility to change and move with the market. Now, where that all comes in is the word tact. I'm going to read this to you. The word tactical in business planning process means applying creative strategic thinking and deploying resources quickly and efficiently, okay? It requires anticipation of market trends, looking ahead of the curve, rapid response to competitors' actions, and flexibility to adjust your strategies in conditions of change. See what I'm saying? It's not something like too many people get caught in a fucking business plan. And I'll tell you what, it was there was a guy who I knew, he was a business coach, and he came to me and he had this idea that was just ridiculous. And he by the way, he never got anybody to sign up on this thing. He had this thing where he was going to go and try to coach other business coaches. And I was like, man, that's a pretty good idea. You know what I mean? I can see that, right? But then he got to the punch point where he was going to tell them they needed a business plan. And I'm like, dude, you just lost all the fire in what you just sold me.
You know, I've never
because
really
business plans are fucking boring as shit.
But I guess, like, I understand you need to have, like, a vision and maybe, like, some steps in with a business plan, but I'm kind of like, isn't that kind of like you jump in it, but then you kind of see where it's, like, some trial and error? That's why I'm always, like, when people go to a bank or something and they need, like, a business loan, like, they need to have a mapped out business plan, but I'm thinking, like, I mean, you can have somewhat of an idea, but then I'm kind of like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying because I have a business plan for Dent Trainer, and honestly, I haven't seen it since the day that I wrote it, and it's in like somewhere, I don't know, it's in a filing cabinet somewhere.
We should find that.
We should find it because I haven't looked at it since that day that I finished it.
Yeah,
and. You know, I mean, that's the thing. When you start a business, you really have no idea what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially if you're kind of like me and Mike, where we're tech savvy dudes, but we didn't know exactly which way things were going to turn. We didn't, there was a lot of trial and error in the things that we did because there was not a lot of education on what we were doing at the time.
Yeah.
But going back to that, the business plan, I actually told the business coach too that was doing that. I told him, I was like, you know what I would do? And he's like, what? I was like, I would fucking light a business plan on fire and tell everybody they didn't need one. And he's like, well, that's just preposterous. And I'm like, no, it's not. And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, no, it's not. And he's like, well, it is. And then I swear to you, we had this dude that was a multimillionaire that was there at the time who was strategically coaching.
Oh, God. I know exactly who you're
know
talking about.
We had a dude who was with us, a multimillionaire internet guy. And he looks at the dude and says, no, I think John's right. He's like, and then I heard him kind of like talk about it. And he's like, well, maybe the part where you're analyzing your competition and, that stuff, but really that's it. And ultimately, that is one good part about a business plan is that you're forced to write down some direct competitors, some indirect competitors, and you evaluate their strengths and weaknesses, which you should have fucking done anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You didn't need to write an executive summary to get that done.
Yeah.
Which I actually did that shit, and I can't believe I did it. I thought it was going to be super important, and come to find out, you never go back to it again because everything changes in
We're going to
have
to dig this thing out and look at it.
We are. So anyhow,
I bet we get a giggle.
I'm going to keep on reading because I kind of stopped, right? Okay. So I'll go back over this real quick. The word tactical and business planning process means applying creative strategic thinking, deploying resources quickly and effectively. It requires anticipation of market trends, rapid response to competitors' actions, and flexibility to adjust your strategies in conditions of change. Tactics are the specific step a company takes to execute its strategies. A tactical business plan describes what is to be done, who is responsible for each task, and the company resources required to complete the task, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, what it is, it's the action behind the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said this because, like, there's two types of people. There's people that sit around and fucking plan and just won't shut up with their shit, and they dream, but they're scared to implement it because they're afraid that the things that they are thinking about will not be responded in the way they feel that it will once the market begins to respond. They're scared to put it out there because they think that they're going to be told that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And that is the truth. If you put something out there and the market is not responding to it, you're wrong, but you have to be tactical on figuring out what front you're wrong on.
Yeah.
Because now, if it's just a shitty product that nobody wants, then you're wrong there. There's nothing you can really do to, I mean, you could market it and sell it, but the buyer's remorse and all that stuff has no longevity for that company or that product or that service.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you could, and if you have a really good product and you put it out there, what's wrong? Am I hitting my target market? Is my advertising, am I conveying the message so people understand it?
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be some tactical strategy to this. And, you know, I'll tell you, when you deploy something into the market, you don't necessarily get the response that you think you're going to get right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's always strategic and moving with the market and answering with, typically, when you hear your clients and customers ask you things like, so what does this really mean? And you're like, oh my God, you know, I've got this website out there. What do you mean they don't know what it means? They didn't read my blog on it?
Yeah.
Now, guess what? Nobody reads your fucking blog, dude. They might read your tiny Facebook posts or the ones that are written like I write them with spaces in between. So you can,
Which
your
is
mind,
really nice.
your mind has a chance to reset over and over again. It's been proven that copywriting, it is proven that people
I know,
will read your
because
shit.
it's like if somebody posts something on some type of social media thing and it's this huge one big
Oh,
paragraph,
God.
I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, screw this shit. I don't have time for this.
I'm running before I even look at it.
It's like, this is not intriguing. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't have a mind span to sit there and like,
But you can take that same post and break it into one sentence lines, and it tricks people into continuously reading them.
exactly. Yep.
Because they read one line and they're not overwhelmed. They can stop at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is, if you structure it correctly, you should be able to compel them to continue reading line by line by line by line.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, that's, by all means, that's probably one of my weakest sides, I feel. I feel that I could definitely be a stronger copywriter, and I'm working on that. I'm writing a book.
Yes, you are.
So because I'm writing a book, it's forcing me to slow down. My biggest thing is sometimes my mind goes so fast,
Yes, it does.
and I'm thinking like 10 steps ahead,
Yeah.
that I'll post something and I'll just like, it's the equivalent of like scribbling something down for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then I'll go back later and be like, fuck, man, I misspelled that word, and you know, I did this
Even
and I
just
did
the
that.
way you are around the shop, like the way your mind is like going, and then you're walking around the shop and the stuff you're doing. I'm just like, I wish you'd just slow down for just a minute.
Yeah, she says that when I talk to people too, that I need to slow down a little bit. But
I don't want it to take your sparkle away.
that's what I
Your
tried to
little-
explain to
yeah,
her.
Your
Actually
shine,
explain that to you, you
your
know,
sparkle.
that it's just the way I am, you know.
That is true.
And but yeah, it's you know, sometimes you do got to step back and slow down a little bit, especially when it comes to the written word, because I want to be able to write things that strike people. I want to be able to write things that, you know, I can touch people's hearts. I can, you know, do things like that. At first, because I'm not much of a, you know, all my books that I listen to, they're on Audible. I only read one if I'm forced, like if it's a book I gotta read and it's only available by whatever, you know, I'm gonna read it, you know, but I typically will fall asleep while I'm reading, so it sucks.
Yeah.
But Audible, I can just, if you guys don't know what that is, that's Amazon's version of audiobooks. I can just sit there and, you know, I can listen to books all day. I probably got over 100 books in my Audible that I've listened to throughout the years, which makes me well-cultured.
Yes, it does.
Now you check out some of my books and you'll be like, what the fuck is he doing? I got a whole book about the female clitoris.
What? No, you do not.
So I do. I was like, man, you know, this might be important enough for me to know a little extra.
No, you do not. Are you serious?
To know a little extra about it.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I know that thing.
No, you do
I know that
not.
thing upside down and inside out.
Oh my God, no, you do not have a book on that.
Hey, babe, you know that time when it changed?
You do not. We are not. No, we do not talk about that. That's private.
I said the medical terms. I used medical
You
terminology.
do not have no damn book on that. You're just fucking with me and everybody else.
So, but if something's important enough, you definitely want to learn about it,
Oh my God.
so.
That would be messed up if all of a sudden you're like, Angie, I got this awesome book we need to listen to. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what
Dun,
the
dun,
fuck?
dun.
I'm like, you turn that shit off.
Listen to that on your private time there, please. Thank you.
My face would
I
get
appreciate you,
my
sir.
face would get fire engine red.
What are you doing
I'd be
late?
so
What are you doing later on
uncomfortable.
tonight there, handsome?
Yeah, and a customer comes walking in.
did you read another chapter in that book? I see.
No. No.
All right, I was bad. So, yeah. But anyhow, that's how tactical I felt about it.
Oh my God. Dear Lord, help us.
Nah, but you honestly, like, I got everything from ninja strategies to, got different. I went through this whole thing where I was into Japanese culture and was trying to understand like how the Japanese did things. And,
Yeah.
So I learned all this stuff. Like I listened to all these books about the samurai.
Yeah.
And then I got this thing right now, and this is a real thing. You guys probably think I'm fucking crazy. Actually, people thought he was crazy when he first came out with the idea. But Napoleon Hill, a long time, he came up with this thing called the Invisible Council.
Yeah.
And the Invisible Council was the ability to basically imagine that you were in the room with all of these specific people. Like, for instance, when I was doing this, when I was meditating, my Invisible Council was...
Oh, you were playing pretend.
well, not necessarily. I'll kind of explain this to you because it's deeper than playing pretend. You actually got to read books because one of them was Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And what I that's why I got Steve Jobs' book. I read that.
Did you listen to that whole thing?
Yeah. And then Rockefeller's book.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about Rockefeller. He was part of my Invisible Council.
Yeah.
I read about Bill Gates, Elon Musk. They were both part of my Elon Musk. He's always the weird guy in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay to be weird.
Honestly, but think about this. Okay, here was Napoleon Hill, one of the very first success writers that was actually charged by Andrew Carnegie and put into action to create success, and found out that these fucking rich people were doing this shit where they, in their mind, so here's what the Invisible Council is. Like, you begin to read so much about Steve Jobs, or you end up reading so much about Rockefeller, or, these people that you admire and you want to learn about from the past or the present,
Yeah.
And in your mind, you have questions and you pretend they're sitting around a table with you and you ask the questions and you wait for their response. And Steve Jobs would say, well, I think you need to do beautiful packaging. Definitely beautiful packaging and maybe
Wait a
streamline.
minute. You asked them these questions, which I
About
totally
your business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You say something like, okay, I'm opening up a retail shop. How would you design it?
Okay.
And, Rockefeller comes back and he talks about the profitability and make sure that, people don't think that you're making too much money.
I get where you're going with this.
But Steve Jobs wants it to be eloquent and simple and everything has to be streamlined, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like surrounding yourself with a council of people. You get to know them so well on books
Yeah.
that they and here's what happens. Here's the weird thing that happens throughout the day when you're just doing shit. You'll catch yourself going, "I wonder what Steve Jobs would do,"
Yeah.
or "Wonder what Rockefeller would do in this situation."
Yeah.
Which it almost strengthens your ability to make decisions. And Henry Ford was another one that I read a book about. And Henry Ford,
Yeah.
and that's the side of you. Henry Ford's a side of you that says, why give people what they want when you can give them what they need? Because if I gave people what they want, they would have wanted a better horse and buggy.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have
That's
asked
true.
for a car.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's forced to bring out your imagination at a deeper level,
Yeah.
And then Steve Jobs is telling you, change the fucking world. With
Yeah.
Why are you focusing on doing this little stuff when you could, for instance, like, I would say that probably inspired me to, instead of using somebody else's website system, to have our own built,
Yep.
because that's something Steve Jobs would have done. And Steve Jobs is super successful. And I get a chance to, by reading all the books and learning about these men, I get a chance to actually kind of kind of just think things through a little bit deeper. You know,
No, I get you. I actually kind of like that whole thing.
it's interesting concept. But Napoleon Hill,
You've never told me about
yeah.
this.
So when Napoleon Hill first came out with it, he said that he had learned this from several people, but he never said he was practicing it
yeah.
because he was almost ashamed that people would ridicule him and say that
Really?
he's, just got to watch. Well, people of them times
well,
would
yeah.
are just like people, they'll take like a little short part of something and
Yeah.
they'll exploit it. And I think people at that time didn't have the mental capability to understand the depth of how much mental strength and how much you actually got to use mentally to like build a business in that scale. I mean, there was people that were even considering like calling Henry Ford stupid, and he sued him for it. He actually sued them for calling him stupid. It was a newspaper. Hold on for a second.
Oh, I see.
My computer went out. I got to make sure we're still okay. Good. So, for instance, Henry Ford was put up on. He actually sued this newspaper for calling him stupid, and so he put a lawsuit against him. And I guess the attorney was up there and asking these questions. And he would ask these questions, and Henry Ford would have a hilarious response. He actually had the whole courtroom laughing, I guess. And the attorney would say, well, in Great Britain, how many men were sent to war? And he said, well, I heard it was a lot more than came back. And he was being very sarcastic with him. And then finally, as the attorney kept pronging and poking at him, Henry Ford stopped him mid-sentence, and he said, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I've got a row of electric push buttons on my desk. Each one of them, I could take these silly questions that you're asking me and push them and summon the answer to that question by bringing somebody to my desk.
Yeah.
He said, so ask me, why should I clutter my mind with so much useless information when I've got the ability to summon it or request it at any moment?
Yeah.
And then immediately the court knew that was not the answer of a stupid man.
That's true.
That was the answer of a man who had a lot of people that were employed underneath of him that had a lot more traditional educational experience. But he was smart enough and had the fucking balls to actually assemble them in a way that served him and served them. Not everybody wants to have the pressure Henry Ford. I mean, there were several times his whole thing went bankrupt, I mean, there was a lot of pressure that dude had on him. There was pressure from unions. He lived if you're that big and you're disrupting a culture at that level, you are literally going to live a stressful life, no doubt about it. And it's one of them things. There's a lot of people that don't want that stress in their life. They want to go home to their wife and their children and you have a check and food and be able to go, places on the weekend and do things like that and forget about their work. People like Henry Ford never forgot about their work. That was their life. That was his life mission.
Yeah. And you just go into that one book that we just got done listening to.
Yeah.
We talked about it last time we did a podcast. What was the name of that book again?
Relentless.
Yes.
Yeah.
John just got me into listening to audiobooks.
Well, Henry Ford was relentless, no doubt. I mean, I personally feel, I don't know, because I can only tell people the way I feel.
Yeah.
I personally feel it's the only way to live. I feel that when you put yourself through a certain amount of pain and self-discipline, that it strengthens your character. It strengthens you. We got too many weak motherfuckers out there. I mean, everybody is just so weak. It's like it's like they're fragile, like a damn what's a real fragile fruit? What a plum. Everybody, like, there's so many people that are like plums out there.
Plum?
A bruise and like you just touch them and they're bruised and they're sensitive, And I just believe that willpower. I believe that being strong, having a strong mind.
I think like thick skin. I think that happens over time.
Yeah.
I think some people probably have thicker skin than other people.
Wow. Sometimes I do think, because I remember when I was younger, I didn't have thick skin. People would say things to me, it'd bother me, it'd fester, and I had a hard time with that when I was younger. I think it's through self-discipline and, understanding yourself and understanding your mission, because literally they say the truth hurts. So if somebody says something to you that hurts, then there's got to be a little bit of truth to it.
Yeah.
It's got to be something you're not willing to look at, but not until you embrace pain, okay, and say that, all right, well, if this is a pain point, that's perfect. We found it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you begin to embrace that, then you know, well, so how do I correct this? What do I got to do to become bigger and better to correct this pain point?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wrote a post on my Instagram the other day, and it could be taken so many ways, you know. Like, so many people could say, well, this guy is just fucking crazy. Or somebody could say, you know, but the whole premise of the post is that, like, this whole think positive all the time movement is a bunch of shit. You can't just one day decide to think positive and heal all your problems or heal any of the problems in the world. There's so many good things that come from pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Think about the songs that come from pain and suffering. Mm-hmm. Think about how they resonate with you. Think about the fly swatter. That was the pain of fucking flies everywhere. And somebody suffered enough to they invented something.
Yeah.
And said, fuck you, flies. Right? So, I mean, there's so many good things. The moment that pain helps us, pain and suffering is something that helps us grow.
Yeah.
It gives us a stronger character. It's there to make us a better person. You guys know all them weird motherfuckers that get on that positive trip and they're just walking around with that big old weirdo smile on their face. You know that you just want to follow them motherfuckers around and wait for them to explode. Because the explosion is coming, y'all.
Yeah.
It's only going to take time, and they're about to be Tom Cruise up in this bitch. That's all that it takes is a Tom Cruise moment, and it's over.
Oh, God.
Scientologists are notorious for that.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. And, they're notorious for carrying that positive, you know, and then all of a sudden one day it all comes pouring out.
It's just really all about give and take.
Yeah. I'd say above and beyond being a monk or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're going to have problems with society and stuff like that. But I love it. I enjoy, you know, if somebody, like, I don't know, in the weirdest way, like, I enjoy people trying to compete with me. You're
a
enjoy,
special breed.
but I enjoy that because,
Special breed.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not any fun unless you have that aspect.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from.
In all honesty, it makes you better.
I like it
because
to a certain degree.
you got to be forced to look within.
No, that's true.
And anytime that you're forced to look within, you can either be a bitch and listen to your bitch voice that says just give up and roll over,
Yeah.
or you can man the fuck up and move shit. Yeah, that's how mountains are moved, you know, I don't know what it is. It spurs something inside of me that is literally in control of my inner drive.
Yep.
And if it's not there, it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's just boring as fuck. So I guess you could say there was that quote that came out that one time, I like losing as much as I like winning. Now try to beat me.
Mm.
And where that quote came from, and I understood it right off the bat. Some people be like, what? He likes losing. What? Nah, man. It's not that. I think Gary Vee did that quote. And, you know, I'm about a mid-level average. I don't watch Gary Vee shit all the time, but I like to sometimes scroll through his page, get a little bit inspired or something like that. But, you know, what he meant by that is that when he loses, he's forced to self-reflect and correct and become better.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, that is what makes us grow. Mm-hmm. And I wrote in that post that, like, literally, if a tree needs water, oxygen, and sunlight to grow, we need pain, suffering, and problems to grow as well.
Yeah.
Because every great business is either going to solve a problem, it's either gonna bring you towards pleasure or pull you away from pain, which solves a problem. We all want more pleasure in our life, and we all want to get further away from pain.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you guys to think a little bit different. Try to get a little tighter with pain. Try to understand that pain, because it's not going to disappear. And by avoiding it, and here's what I think. I think people that go on this positive trip where everything's positive, la 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 la, I just see them as like people walking around like with a bus coming at them, but they got their fingers in their ears and they're going la 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 la. Nothing's out there. Yeah. Nope. Nothing's scary. Nothing's out there. Nope. I'm safe. Everything's okay.
I tried that one day and it didn't work. Maybe a couple hours into it, I'm like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
This isn't life.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry. It's
nah,
just
it's
no.
and unfortunately, like it's it would be like taking a, you know what I mean? It's like taking a 3-dimensional world, or and turning it into 1 dimension,
Yeah.
and losing all of the color and the aspects and all of that by framing everything down to like a flat piece of paper. Next thing you know, you're like a person, like a drawing on a paper, and you don't have any other dimensions. You don't have any depth to you. You're hiding all that shit.
Yeah.
And you're just flat as that piece of paper. And, in my experience, life is lived much, much better, much healthier when you have dimensions. And when you accept all of life, ups and downs, because what happens when you're crazy happy and something horrible happens, right?
Yeah.
You got to understand that, like, you
can't be happy.
You
I mean,
can't.
that's just,
you can't.
you gotta go with the flow. You
Right, and that
ride
shit,
them emotions.
That shit's gotta drive people crazy.
Yeah.
It's got to.
That's just like if somebody stubbed their damn toe. That fucking hurts.
Yeah.
How can someone be like, oh, I'm so happy I stubbed my toe. This is the greatest feeling ever. No, that shit fucking hurts. And it makes you scream, and it can make you cry, and you say a bunch of cuss words, and then maybe 10 minutes later you feel better.
Yeah. You ever heard of the spiral effect?
No.
So the spiral effect is like when you wake up in the morning, you stub your toe, and everything goes downhill. Everything like down spirals from that.
Yeah.
And you got to be aware of that too, and you got to be careful. You never want to get caught in that mentality, because the reason why that's happening is because you start off in like such a horrible mood that you expect everything to be shitty after that.
But can't you, if it starts out shitty, can't you like do something or listen to something that's
what I'm saying. You got to figure out ways to turn that shit around.
Yeah.
Who wants to have a shitty day all day long, right?
I know,
it's going to happen. I got to say though, it's very rare that I have shitty days, like full on, full blow, everything went bad, shitty day. I would say most everything.
I'd tell you to stop acting like that. But like, you better check yourself.
Well, it's so interesting because I look back and I don't know, like I have this firm belief.
Don't be a fucking turd.
I just have this firm belief that everything happens for this specific reason. You have to just have faith that that's what it is,
Yeah.
And when you begin having faith that everything's here for your good, whether it's good or bad happens for your good, it's like when my father passed away, I looked at it like I'm going to make him the proudest father in the world. I'm going to work hard to make him proud. That's what that's what took over my feelings at that time, because I knew that looking at it any other way would be something he wouldn't have wanted me to do,
Yeah.
And, above and beyond, every podcast I get you going, don't I?
Yeah.
But above and beyond that, I mean, that's the way you got to look at things. I mean, there's going to be negative times. There's going to be times when you feel that pain. But what can you do inside of yourself to correct yourself, to make yourself bigger, better, and stronger at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm.
And above and beyond that, what pain points, because we started this off talking about the tactical, the word tactical. What pain points do you see in your market? When you move in your market, are you moving to the beat of that market? When you put something out there, are you feeling the responses of it, right? Mm-hmm. Are you understanding exactly when you got to change course and how you got to change course? Mm-hmm. Because if you're just building a straight up plan, or you expect something that you throw out there to work immediately, then you're kidding yourself. Mm-hmm. You're lying to yourself as much as a fat person eating a salad is lying to themselves saying they're going to be skinny tomorrow. And I was fat, I know.
You weren't fat. You were just chubby. A little chubby.
I was going to say PHAT.
Just a little chubby. I think most people probably have dealt with that, to where they've been a little chubby.
I was a little chubby, but this girl still loved me.
I was chubby at one point,
even though I was chubby. I know, I used to like it when you was chubby.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I was chubby. Well, I was
Give me some of that love.
I don't think I was. I mean, I was like, I was just thick in extra areas. Like that was a little extra thick in certain areas.
There's a lot of men that like that stuff. I'm telling you.
That's what
All right.
it was.
With all that, y'all, we're going to jump off of this podcast.
Yes, we are.
And appreciate you. And when you get out there, be tactical with your stuff, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't just think about ideas, do them, okay? Number one. Number two, don't tell the world what you're going to do. Show them,
That's right.
all right? And that right there, my friends, is never revealing your plans. And that's being strategic, that's being tactical, and that's understanding that you're going to move with the market and execute the final result. And the final result is whatever you define as your success.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you. We're going to see you on that next one.
And remember, it's all about the hustle. Bang, bang.
Pew, pew.